Greetings and welcome back to my channel for another video. Prayerfully everyone is doing well on this Tuesday, September the 30th, 2025. Now, many of us remember the horrible, tragic incident involving SONYA Massey, July the 6th, 2024, at the hands of the accused, GRAYSON. Now, his trial is set for October the 20th. So we are going to go back in time of this tragic incident. Again, this is fair use. And viewer discretion is strongly advised. And it's just a short
possible
video.
intruder, but instead ended up with Deputy Sean Grayson. Who it was? Grayson, who's now charged with a murder, had a troubled career that began with a stint in the Army, a discharge for misconduct, then followed by more accusations of misconduct, check front yard, during his time in law enforcement, described as having trouble obeying orders. We're at the end of 2nd Street, she's taking out right. Like with what happened here at his 5th police job when he refused an order by a superior at the Logan County.
Keep in mind, this is his 5th police job that they're speaking about. 5th police job. Now, I'm going to be fair because there are motions that his lawyers have filed that include inquiring about her mental status and a alleged incident with an altercation with a neighbor involving a brick. So I will be speaking about all of that.
The sheriff's department.
5th job. I want you all to pay attention to this. Now, I'm going to be fair because there were motions put out about allegations of an altercation with the late SONYA Massey and the neighbor. And to brick, and then her state of mind, but it was known that she had mental issues. But let's look into Sean Grayson, and keep in mind his trial is October the 20th.
Department to terminate a high-speed chase over a traffic infraction. His speed at time reaching 110 miles per hour. Are you pursuing? I'm about to terminate. She's flying up 121 right now. But Grayson didn't stop. He did, however, turn off his lights and siren. But kept going anyways until he hit a deer. Well, I'll definitely be terminated. Because a buck just smacked the side of my driver's side door. Did you violate a direct order? Yes. From the supervisor about termination? Yes, I did. Grayson was questioned by a deputy chief and other top staff after that crash in Logan County. Do you agree, before we conclude this, that there's a mountain of policy violations?
A mountain of policy violations.
That you committed 7 months on. How are you still employed by us?
7 months on, how are you still employed by us? Deputy Chief Miller. Again, the question was asked to Sean Grayson, 7 months on. And you're still employed by us? That was a question. Sean Grayson.
Yet he could.
I don't know. Sean Grayson said he didn't know. Wow.
Continued to get a pass over and over again, even during the Logan County hiring process of Grayson. There were warning signs from another past employer, the Auburn, Illinois Police Department, where he worked in 2022.
Okay. For all of you sympathizers, and again, and I'm being fair, but you cannot ignore these facts.
CBS News obtained these notes from a discussion between the Auburn chief and a representative from Logan County, where Grayson had applied for a new job. It states the Auburn chief said Grayson struggles with report writing that he was very aggressive with getting drugs. The chief expressed concern that Grayson was too aggressive and that Grayson posted his drug arrests on Facebook.
Now, I did not believe. I just heard that because it is my understanding that in law enforcement, social media it is a no-no, especially if you were on duty. These are things I absolutely know for sure. So again, I hope all of these things, and I'm sure they will be, entered as evidence. Now, one of the motions are stating that SONYA Massey was the aggressor because it is alleged that she was the one who was getting close to him with boiling hot water.
And the chief called him a bragger and was not great with evidence. Left items laying around office.
Wow. Stand up guy. Stand up guy, that is. Now, I want you to take a good look at, again, Sean Grayson. Now, according to NBC News, and I implore you to do your research, Sean Grayson's attorneys had asked the judge in a motion filed in the 7th Judicial Circuit Court in Sangamon County to reconsider his decision to deny Grayson pretrial release. The motion said that Menard County Jail, where Grayson is being detained, does not have the medical staff with the capacity to provide necessary care. Grayson's attorney, Mark Wyckoff, argued that detention decisions are individualized and that it would not be novel or unprecedented to release Grayson. Further, the threat has been mitigated by the fact that he is no longer working in his official capacity, Wyckoff said, which Sangamon County Assistant State's Attorney Mary Beth Rogers disagreed with when she addressed the court. Wyckoff asked the judge not to allow bias, prejudice, or public opinion to influence his decision. In explaining his decision, Cadigan said Grayson poses a real and present threat to the community that is not mitigated by the fact he is no longer a deputy or by his medical condition. Cadigan told Grayson that he was sorry about his cancer and encouraged him to continue to communicate with his medical needs with the jail staff, who he said are equipped to handle many types of medical conditions. And further, Grayson's attorney had said in a motion that all weapons had been removed from his home and that he did not have any access to them through the sheriff's office since he has been fired, and that there was no reason to believe that he would have contact with Massey's family or engage in any violence upon release. It is also noted that Grayson, who was to be married in October, again, he was to be married in October, had a low score on a pre-trial risk assessment. Grayson appeared virtually for the hearing. At his arraignment, a judge granted the prosecution's request that Grayson remain in custody. The judge said his comments before and after the incident involving SONYA Massey, including the disparaging remarks he made about Massey and directing another deputy not to render aid, are so out of bounds, and this is in quote, so let me say this, quote, are so out of bounds of societal norms that it suggests that there is no condition that would be sufficient, closed quote. Further, simply no longer working as a police officer or home confinement or electronic monitoring or any other conditions that are oftentimes used cannot sufficiently mitigate the threat of someone who acted in this way. And this was from the judge. So again, in quotes, simply no longer working as a police officer or home confinement or electronic monitoring or any other conditions that are oftentimes used cannot sufficiently mitigate the threat of someone who acted in this way. Campbell, who was once the sheriff, heeded calls from Massey's family and others across the strait who urged him to step down. That was Jack Campbell, and he subsequently did step down. Now, changes to the standards and collaborating with other units of government on ways to prevent incidents like this in the future have been made. The one person truly responsible for this act is in jail, and I believe justice will be served through the legal process. And that was according to a statement from an official. Despite these efforts, some in our community want me to pay the price for that person's actions. Again, this is coming from Jack Campbell, again, who stepped down, even threatening that I pay the price with my life, my family lives, or the lives of my deputies. We will only persevere together as a community if we turn down the temperature and resolve to do better. We must honor the life of Sonya Massey by ensuring no one else falls victim to such a tragic and senseless action. That has been my sincere mission since that fateful day. He said his health, as well as that of his family, the sheriff's office, and the community, has to be my priority. Now, Sonya Massey had called 911 to report a suspected prowler on the morning of July the 6th. Grayson and another deputy who has not been publicly identified, and I do not know as of today, September the 30th, 2025, at 3:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if his identity has been released as of yet. The encounter ended with Grayson using his weapon and Sonya Massey succumbing from injuries to her head. He said in a field report that he believed Massey intended deadly harm when she told him and the other deputy, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," as she stood near a pot of hot liquid. Sean Grayson, by and through his lawyers, have since filed a motion of self-defense, claiming that he feared for his life. He stated, he interpreted, "I rebuke you," meaning that he was going to take his life. Grayson also said in a report, which was written 3 days after Sonya Massey lost her life, that Massey later threw boiling hot water toward him, and at the time she suffered that fatal injury, Massey was blocked from view. Massey was blocked from view in the body camera released by the Illinois State Police. Not surprising. Which conducted an independent investigation. Campbell and prosecutors have said the use of force was not justified. Again, pay attention. Sean Grayson is 6'3", 228 pounds. Massey was 5'4" and 112 pounds, according to the autopsy report. 5'4", 111 pounds. 6'3", 228 pounds. Again, this is the heartless, gutless, no soul, evil part of the story, in my opinion. After taking the life of SONYA Massey, and again, the injury was above her shoulders. Grayson discouraged the other deputy from rendering aid, citing that the severity of her injury, according to body camera video. The deputy still rendered aid and stayed with Massey until medical help arrived, according to prosecutors. On July 17th, Grayson was fired from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office, where he had been employed since May of 2023. He entered a plea of not guilty to first-degree loss of life, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. Now, this person's name has been in the news a lot lately, so again, sometimes you have to pay attention to certain people in high places. Campbell has said the department had failed Massey and that Grayson had been properly trained on how to de-escalate the situation. I'm sorry, I can't see that, and I don't believe many people could see that. There are others that, again, blame her for her mental health issues, and that is a problem. And the allegations that she had an altercation with a neighbor that involved a brick and a broken glass window. Governor J.B. Pritzker and the state's lieutenant governor said that Campbell had failed to do his job and should resign, which Campbell claimed at first he would not, but he did eventually step down. Campbell is a Republican and had been sheriff since 2018. Keep in mind, J.B. Pritzker has been in the news quite a bit. Now, Grayson was allowed to work in Sangamon County. And people question how. How was he able, given the contents that you just heard earlier, and the disciplinary file from Logan County Sheriff's Office, where he worked immediately before Sangamon County. Campbell, who again has stepped down, previously told NBC News that he was not aware of those documented issues and defended Grayson's hiring. I bet he did. Grayson had been faulted for disobeying an order to halt a high-speed chase that ended in him striking a deer, and for violating department policy. In his disciplinary report in his personnel file from Logan County, which also shows that he had been reprimanded over inaccuracies in his police reports, among other things. Massey's loss of life has drawn national attention and protests over the killing of people of color in their homes by police. Now, again, for you sympathizers out there, and again, that there are issues as it relates to the mental health of Sonya Massey and these allegations of an altercation. But it was known that Sonya Massey did suffer from, allegedly, schizophrenia. And during the 911 call on July 5th, her mother, Donna, explained to the dispatch that she believed her daughter was having a mental health crisis and whomever they should send out to please not harm her. So something in her spirit, something within her soul told her or warned her that there could have been something tragic. And unfortunately, that was the case. So again, let me read this to you. Grayson had been faulted for disobeying an order to halt a high-speed chase that ended in him striking a deer, and for violating department policy, according to his disciplinary report in his personnel file from Logan County, which shows he had been reprimanded over inaccuracies in his police reports, among other things. He was also caught up in some issues when he served briefly in the military. So again, let's look at some things. I'll give you time to read over. And another slide for you to review. So as I mentioned, Sean Grayson's trial is set for October the 20th. And in summary, some of the context is the sheriff's deputy who has been charged, which is Sean Grayson, for fatally injuring a Black woman. Again, the injury was above her shoulders, inside of her Illinois home, was employed by 6 different police agencies in 4 years. 6 different police agencies in 4 years. Sean Grayson's checkered career included part-time stints at 3 police departments, a full-time at a 4th police department, and then 2 full-time jobs at sheriff's offices, all between the years of 2020 and 2024. Grayson was fired from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office after pleading not guilty to taking the life of Sonya Massey and other charges stemming from the fateful July 6 incident of the loss of life of Sonya Massey. Now, again, I am not going to show the video because I haven't even watched the video. I actually can't. But some of the words hurled and stated by Sean Grayson, who said he would do what he did to her in her face, which he did, then refer to her as a crazy bee. That is not indicative of an upstanding officer of the law, in my opinion. Now, on this fateful day of July 6th, it is said, and this can be found on CNN, that from the start of their interaction, Massey was exhibiting various signs suggesting she may be experiencing mental health issues, according to body camera footage. She had trouble understanding and answering basic questions, and when they asked if she was doing all right mentally, she said, "Yes, I took my medicine. So if this is accurate and if this is indeed true, then it is safe to assume one or both officers were aware that there were mental health issues." The 911 calls capture the heartbreaking pleas of Sonya's mother, which I spoke about briefly earlier, Donna Massey, who desperately sought help for her daughter while expressing her deep fears about the potential for violence at the hands of the police. Again, I've always had questions about that. Again, whether people believe it or not, sometimes you can speak things in existence, or there is something inside of you that is telling you something tragic may happen. And unfortunately, in this case, that's exactly what happened. The failure to provide the appropriate response to a mental health crisis has resulted in the irreversible loss for the Massey family, and it underscores a systemic issue that must be addressed. Sonya Massey is just one of a number of Black women who have lost their lives by police officers in their homes, one including Breonna Taylor and Atiana Jefferson. Now, around 9:00 a.m. on July 5th, the day before Sonya lost her life, Sonya Massey's mother reported her daughter as being sporadic and having a mental breakdown, but she also noted she's not a danger to herself. She's not a danger to me, according to an audio tape reviewed by CNN. And this is a photo of when Sean Grayson and his partner arrived to her home to what she believed would be help, but unfortunately resulted in the loss of her life. Now, again, many argue and say that it was her action, her being the aggressor by throwing a pot of boiling water. The questions, and there are many, could this have been avoided? Could this have been de-escalated? Would this have happened if Sean Grayson was not hired by the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office? Again, there is a claim of self-defense. 6'3", 5'4", but then if you factor in a boiling pot of water, was that type of force needed and justified? Sean Grayson has appealed by and through his attorneys to be released prior to trial. And there has been a hiccup where it appeared that it was granted but then overturned, and now the Supreme Court has to make that decision. He has been moved from his previous facility as it relates to his current health condition, and I wish recovery for everyone. I think as humans, that's just something that it is believed we should do despite the evil and demonic ways. You cannot conform and turn into that person. But let us not ever forget that SONYA Massey lost her life on July 6, 2024. And the charges Sean Grayson is facing as he awaits trial October the 20th, 2025. SONYA Massey's family is seeking justice and has called for legislative reforms to improve policing, particularly regarding mental health and law enforcement vetting. And from the videos that you saw earlier, that is a must because Sean Grayson had a series of events that are not favorable. And as you could hear by the audio, which is an authentic audio, he was questioned, "How are you still with us?" And Sean Grayson stated he didn't know. He didn't know. It will be interesting, the outcome of this case. Well, I hope and pray for justice. And let me be clear with that. Justice. Justice for everyone. Justice may not always be fair, unfortunately. And we've seen this in many, many cases. No matter how heinous, how awful the images we have been seen and shown, may not always be indicative of the outcome for which some may ask and pray for. Again, the trial for Sean Grayson, former Deputy Sheriff of Sangamon County, is set for trial October the 20th, 2025, and he's been charged in taking the life of SONYA Massey, July the 6th, 2024. Your thoughts on this entire horrific tragedy that the world saw with their own eyes? Could this have been prevented? Could Sean Grayson have de-escalated the tragedy? Could proper treatment and assessment and how officials deal with mental health issues prevented this tragedy that contributed to the loss of life of SONYA Massey? Your thoughts, again, and opinions on this tragedy, the upcoming trial, and if justice, from your perspective, because everyone has their opinions, will be served, and if police reform and training will help prevent future tragedies such as this. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to any comments.
Grayson says he shot Massey because he was afraid she was going to throw boiling water on him. In November, an appellate court ruled that prosecutors failed to provide sufficient evidence that Grayson poses a danger to the public. Grayson says he shot Massey because he was afraid she was going to throw boiling water on him. In November, an appellate court ruled that prosecutors failed to provide sufficient evidence that Grayson poses a danger to the public. Grayson says he shot Massey because he was afraid she was going to throw boiling water on him. In November, an appellate court ruled that prosecutors failed to provide sufficient evidence that Grayson poses a danger to the public. Grayson says he shot Massey because he was afraid she was going to throw boiling water on him. In November, an appellate court ruled that prosecutors failed to provide sufficient evidence that Grayson poses a danger to the public. Grayson says he shot Massey because...
Rest in peace, SONYA Massey.